I rise to move that the bill for an act to establish the National Security Trust Fund to provide for the maintenance of a trust fund that will cater for the procurement of military, security infrastructure and technology for security agencies in Nigeria and for related matters be read a second time. Thank you. My name is Hon.Rimamnde Shawulu, representing Takum Donga, Usa, and Yangtu Federal Constituency in Taraba State. That Nigeria is facing new security challenges cannot be overemphasized. The challenges have grown with increasing globalization and the globalization of security challenges. Unfortunately, Nigeria as a country has not planned or developed programs to meet with these new challenges. There is obvious and indeed unacceptable deficiency in the military and security setup in Nigeria. Most countries in the world have discovered that military and security needs cannot be adequately taken care of in the annual budget cycles and entirely from government revenue. In the case of Nigeria, the unpredictability of funding from the annual budget cycle, as well as the non-release of appropriated funds, have combined to weaken the security sector. Besides, the weakness of governance and accountability in the security sector have given rise to numerous challenges, including alleged corruption. It is doubtful whether, even if properly utilized, the funds appropriated in the annual budget cycle and the presidential intervention releases will adequately take care of the needs of the security sector. Presently, we have demonstrable deficiency, including, but not limited to, the following. Personnel. Nigeria has one of the lowest ratio of state armed personnel to the civilian population in the world. Equipment. Almost all security agencies in Nigeria today are grossly under-equipped, and where the equipment exists, they are largely obsolete. Training schools are inadequate, and they need to be expanded and upgraded. In case of technologies, the technologies that they need to acquire and upgrade technologies in the new economy and the new network economy is very necessary. Welfare. The state of our barracks and the welfare of security men remain a sore point. There is therefore need for a predictable income revenue base which will allow, ensure, or facilitate the acquisition of technologies, expansion or increase of personnel, the production or acquisition of equipment and infrastructure. The poor performance of our security agencies in the last few years, after successful international interventions in Sierra Leone and Liberia, has been attributed to several factors, including the following: poor remuneration of security personnel, inadequate equipment, the poor state of available equipment, low level of training, limited manpower, and poor maintenance culture. In the last few years, the major factors of corruption and lack of transparency have come to the fore. Inter-agency rivalry has resulted in agencies acquiring equipment because there's the same type of equipment, because there's absence of a centralized funding pool. This bill seeks to address the above challenges. Global practice, best practice. Budgetary constraints and the changing nature of security threats have made several nations in the world to go outside the annual budget cycle to fund the military and security agencies. The following examples are in practice today around the world. In the United Kingdom, there is the use of private-public partnership. In Poland, a fund was created into which citizens were asked, a security fund like we are suggesting, funds were put into it to enable security equipment and military equipment to be sourced. Egypt and Israel depend largely on aid from the United States. Some other nations today have introduced what they call terrorism tax, which you pay when you eat food in restaurants to maintain the security sector. And of course, there's general increase in taxation in some countries to fund security agencies in particular. Where this model of a trust fund, this model of a trust fund will ensure the following. First, a centralized planning for proper coordination of resources and manpower. Two, a predictable income base which will facilitate private investment in the defense and security sector, as it will assure long-term loans and facilities for potential investors and increase public-private partnership. Three, the reduction of infrastructural and equipment deficiency in the security sector and the creation of a global best practice of both legislative and civilian oversight of the security sector. What are the objectives of this bill? They to establish a national trust fund that will be used to ensure that our security sector gets the best of equipment, increases manpower, and the welfare of the security personnel taken care of. The summary of the bill, this bill consists of 26 clauses. Clause 1 provides for the short title. Clauses 2, 3, 4, 5 deal with the establishment of the fund, objectives of the fund, establishment of the board of trustees, and the tenure of office of the members of the board. Clauses 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 11, and 12, and 13 deal with remuneration of the board members, cessation of office, functions of the board, powers of the board, budget consideration by the board, appointment and duties of executive secretary, meetings of the board, and accounts respectively. Clauses 14, 15, 16, and 17, 18, and 19 provide for reporting, exemption from tax, procedure for execution of judgment, offenses, jurisdiction, while clauses 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26 provide for institution of proceedings, notice, procedure for execution of judgment, indemnity, regulations, interpretations, and short title. What is the existing legal order? The bill seeks to establish National Security Trust Fund to provide security agencies in Nigeria with military security hardware infrastructure to aid in ensuring national security. The existing legal order for security agencies in Nigeria include, but are not limited to, the Police Act, Cap P19 Laws of the Federation 2004, the National Securities Agencies Act, Cap 74 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, Armed Forces Act A20 Laws of the Federation 2004, the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps Act 2003. Details of the funding, sources of funding. Part of the suggestions that we are making in this bill, for instance, in the case of our air defense, the air defense in Nigeria is protected by the military. And we believe that the military that has the equipment to defend Nigerian air needs to have access to a small percentage of the funds that are generated in the operations of the airspace. We are suggesting that some little operating tax that telecoms companies pay to NCC should be set aside for security agencies. We have listed about 1 to K areas where we can source for the funds that can be warehoused and kept in a place that security agencies can use in a predictable format to ensure that they are able to buy what is needed to maintain the security of Nigeria. Honorable Speaker, we live in a world where violence is now the order of the day and prevalent in human relations. One of the greatest threats that the globe is facing today is terrorism. Our nation, Nigeria, is at the instant confronted with intimidation from terrorists, insurgents, and militia groups. Thus, safeguarding the sovereignty of Nigeria, independence, and territorial integrity of the state will ultimately be the central pillar of any nation's security. The internal cohesion of the country as well has become a major duty for all the security agencies, which is why today you will discover that the military is involved in internal operations in almost all the states of the Federation. I urge honorable members to support the passage of this bill for second reading so that we will consider and follow the best practices that is being used outside Nigeria to fund the security agencies. Today, we hardly have the equipment that they need. Equipment are not bought off the shelf. Equipment are bought in long-term contracts. And the manufacturers can only agree to give loan to Nigeria, to give these facilities to Nigeria if they can be assured about how their monies can be paid. And we believe that the only way we can assure this is to have a trust fund that is transparently managed, the way TED Fund has been able to upgrade the Nigerian university system. I crave your indulgence, honorable members, to support this bill for the advancement of this country. Thank you very much.
With my junior, my immediate left, because they're both my juniors in the bar. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, I think the questions we need to ask, one, is the Nigerian military underfunded? That's the first question, it's the most important question. Two, is their welfare taken care of? Now, if we can answer these two questions in the affirmative, that they are well taken care of, or they are not underfunded, then let's kill this bill. But if the answer to those two questions is yes, the Nigerian military is underfunded, and two, their welfare is not properly taken care of, then we must necessarily proceed to the next question. Why? We budget year in, year out adequately. We hardly touch their budget. So the question then becomes, why are they underfunded? Perhaps, from what we hear, you don't get enough releases. Why? Because there's a shortfall, there's a budget deficit. The projection that comes in, there's a shortfall and we don't get enough money to fund perhaps the most, if we say in the Constitution that the security and welfare is the primary purpose of business, of governance. Who provides that security? It's the military. And if for any reason we are not able to fund our military, both in terms of equipment, both in terms of welfare, both in terms of technology, then we have already violated the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
There was a motion that we moved sometime in 2017 that sought to investigate the state of military and paramilitary agencies to see how they could be strengthened. As a result of the numerous consultations that we did, both here in Abuja, in Lagos, it became evident that the major problem that we have in the country as far as the military and security agencies are concerned is the issue of funding. Indeed, if you put together all the monies that have been budgeted for the security agencies, all of them combined, you will discover that even if we had 100% release, they will not have solved the problem of infrastructural decay. They will not solve the problems of poor manpower, manning level of the security agencies, and they will not have solved the challenges of equipment. Now, if you look at the issue of our the ratio of officially armed personnel to the civilian population, you will discover that Nigeria is, I think, on number 152 out of 192 of the countries surveyed in the world. We are supposed to have, by United Nations recommendations, about 10% of our population under arms. That is to say, are supposed to have 18 million people in the Army, Air Force, Navy, Civil Defense, Police, and SSS. But if we put all this combined today, they are less than 1 million. They are hardly up to 500,000. Most parts of the country today, there are no security agencies. Most parts of the country today, there are no military people. And the problem is worsened by the fact that the new security challenges that we have ensured that the military is in internal operations in at least 32 to 33 states of the Federation overstretched. We don't have equipment for surveillance, equipment to do. So, and if we are looking at the annual budget cycles, for instance, the Army, which my committee, which I'm privileged in the 8th Assembly to chair its committee, you will see that the budget, the capital budget for 2017 was about 19 billion. And out of that 19 billion, about 50% was released. What would that buy? It will not buy anything. If you check the Navy, they have the same thing. So the idea of having this trust fund is that, for instance, if you check the air defense system, the Army and the military defend Nigerian air, the Nigerian airspace. Now, the equipment that we saw in one of the locations that should be able to defend our territory against any problems straight from the air is a 1963 equipment. So, and you cannot buy this equipment off the shelf. They're not like milk or chicken that you have in supermarkets to buy. You order, you request, and they will be manufactured and given. So, and no manufacturer will give you a loan if he sees that you don't have the means to pay. So the idea of the trust fund is that, can we generate some money from several parts of the economy and put this money, warehouse this money in a trust fund? In the trust fund, the security agencies will present their budget to the trust fund. The budget will be, the money that is available will be allocated on the agreed ratio, and then it will be brought to National Assembly for approval. So the money being requested will still go to all the approval levels. After the National Assembly has approved the budget, the money is already available, and you can predict that by in 10 years' time, you have, like the Air Force can predict that in 5 years' time, it will have this amount of money coming from the trust fund. So you can plan to say, I need this type of aircraft, I need this type of aircraft, and place the order. When you place the order, the manufacturers will now be willing to give you, because they know that money is available over a period of time. You don't have to pay all at once. The money will be available. So that is the essence of the bill, that we should bring a system that is transparent. Keep this money in such a way that the security organizations will be able to plan how to acquire equipment, how to rebuild barracks. Some of you that traveled with us for oversight, you saw the terrible state of the barracks that we have. The welfare of our security, of our military men, is a very bad thing that we need to address. It's in a very bad situation. That is one level. The second level is that currently, because all the agencies do things the way they want to, we have a situation where, for instance, Air Force will buy the same equipment that the Army will have, or the SSS has. In this case, there is some marine equipment, for instance, that either NEMASA also has, and then you have Navy also buying the same type of equipment. But if we have this type of system, it means that the agencies can cooperate in such a way that if one agency has bought this equipment, the other agency does not need to buy it. They can move a step further. Those are the considerations, and I'm grateful that majority of my colleagues understood their need that the security agencies have, and the bill was passed for second reading.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.